Just wanted to talk to you about how I got my motorcycle license and how difficult it was for me. Hey, I'm ready for the ride scene. There's no motorcycle shot today. Oh. I'm talking about the bike here. Hey, the kayaking video's tomorrow. Are you sure? Not today. Okay. It's so hard to get good help. Instead of cruising around on my motorcycle like I normally do, I actually wanted to kill two birds with one stone. I'm not sure we're allowed to say that anymore. Someone might be after me and yelling at me below. No birds were hurt in the making of this video. Back on track. So I just figured I would polish up the bike. I'm almost done, and I'd figure I'd finish talking to you guys about how I got my motorcycle license. Battery died on that one, so I lost my sound. Need sound, or otherwise I'm just doing, and no one really cares. Okay, here we go. I wanted to share my adventures on how I got my motorcycle license. As a kid, I've always wanted to ride, as far back as I can remember, but I always had that issue. I was cursed with the locked throttle. You know, if you search on YouTube, you will probably find a lot of examples of that. Yeah, it was an issue for me, and over the years I tried, and no matter what happened, I had that throttle thing. As a young kid, I rode dirt bikes, well, actually mini bikes with my friends, and go-karts and stuff. The go-karts were no problem. I loved cars. But the mini bikes, I can remember probably a half a dozen times doing the takeoff through the trees and crashing because I locked the throttle down on that thing. You know, figured I'd grow out of it, but I didn't. I can remember all the way up until I was 14, probably before I went into my adulthood was the last time I tried a bike. Friend got a 100cc dirt bike. Said, hey, come on, let's go for a ride. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, oh, come on. Like, you're older now. You can figure this out. Well, the last thing I remember was pulling a wheelie all the way out of his shop, smashing into two giant industrial fans that were being set to be put up on his roof. So a bunch of bruises and scrapes out of that one, and decided, that's it. I guess I'm not riding a motorcycle. So at that point, I wasn't even afraid to get on a snowmobile because I never really rode a snowmobile at that point. And then when I did find one, I realized they had a thumb throttle and not a hand throttle. I'm like, oh, wow, this is awesome. So loved snowmobiles. As an adult, I had another chance to get back onto a motorcycle. I was probably about 26 years old. A friend of mine and his wife and their best friend, and he was a mechanic, were always around motorcycles, mostly Harley Davidsons and some Yamahas and things like that. So they were always like, dude, man, you got to get a bike with us and ride. And I'm like, I told them about my history, and they're like, oh, come on, you're in your 20s, man. Like, go for it. I'm like, okay, no problem. Again, no coaching, no nothing. I jump on his 100cc dirt bike because I wasn't getting on his Harley because I knew better than that. And sure enough, I went up the driveway, across the street, and into the trees. The only thing that stopped me was that a tree tore off the throttle cable. Again, bruises and banged up, and I was so discouraged, went home, pouted, blah, 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 you know. Woke up the next morning, and I was determined that I was going to hook a snowmobile throttle on a motorcycle. I went to my friend the mechanic, and that got squashed really fast when he laughed and walked away. And started to giggle at me. So I figured that's it. That's the end of my motorcycle career. I will not be riding a motorcycle. So it brings me into my 30s. I believe I was 32 years old. Met the woman of my dreams. Married her now. So yes, that's Christiana in the video. Met her when I was a little kid, but we reconnected in my 30s. And of course, she had a 2000 Honda Shadow 750, I believe it was, that she was riding for over 4 years and kept going, dude, come on, like, get a bike, get a bike, get a bike. And I told her my history, and she said, we can overcome this. And this is where the point of this video is. Get a good coach. So she wouldn't let me back down, to the point where she went and bought me a motorcycle training course for my birthday. And that was in March. So she said, well, you got till spring to figure out your throttle issue. So she happily pushed me up and down the driveway on her little Honda so I can get used to the motorcycle and try it out. Come spring, about a month before my course, we went up behind Zeller's at the time in Leamington, and it's a little hilly, so I could sort of coast down the hill. Yeah. I know you're laughing at me right now. But it was my way of overcoming the throttle issue. And I had a great coach. She worked with me, and eventually we started off in second gear, and then so it wouldn't take off as fast. Figured out what an issue was with mine, leaning back too much, so all of my weight was pulled back. So as soon as the bike took off, of course, you panic set in, and you would take off. So it took probably a week of going behind Zeller's there, back and forth, riding that Honda to get used to it. But I managed to get used to it. And then she took me through mini courses that she made for me and helped me out a lot. And then I went to the St. Clair College motorcycle course and loved it. I did really well. They were great in instructing me, and I had a great time. Soon after that, of course, now I'm all gun-ho. Woohoo! I passed, got my license, started stealing her Honda, and she didn't like that much. And one, I'm the big dude. On that little Honda, I couldn't really get it up over 100. So it was time to upgrade to my own motorcycle. So I went on a search. I was looking for a V-Star, Yamaha 1100 V-Star. I did my research. I liked Yamahas, and that was the bike that I felt that would be a comfortable size for me, for my size. So we looked around. I finally found one, actually the Harley dealership out past Wheatley, and Christiana met me up there on her Honda. It was a great bike. Loved riding it. Took it for a test drive. Came back into the dealership. Started looking at another bike. And the sales guy came over and says, dude, I'm sorry, I just sold that bike on you. And I was just like, what? And he's like, yeah, your girlfriend just bought it. Yeah, that's it. She traded in her Honda and stole my bike. Yeah, don't turn your back on them. There's their trouble. So anyways, on our way home, we stopped off in Tilbury at the Honda dealership, and I found another Yamaha there, and we looked it over. I ended up purchasing that, and we ended up having twin Yamahas for our honeymoon, and went on a nice journey together. Had those bikes for probably 5 years. They were awesome. We've never had an issue with our Yamahas. Then the baby came along. Yeah, so we had Goose, and we sort of parked my motorcycle and traded off on hers. I ended up selling mine because it sat so long. But the moral of this is, if you want to ride a motorcycle, keep trying. Be safe. Find the right instructor and the right class. Like I said, I was petrified of a motorcycle time I wanted to get on one. Even to this day, especially riding this big one here, is if I'm doing a hard left turn and my throttle is straight out, I'm actually still have that worry in the back of my head that I'm going to lean back or give it a bit too much throttle. So, I used to drive 18-wheelers, and I always just tell everybody, these trucks will teach you something new every day, and when you stop learning, you're in trouble. Same thing with these motorcycles. They will teach you something new every single day. So keep learning, keep practicing, and I'll see you on the road. Looks ready to me. Let's roll. See you on the road.